I was there, as far as I know, about 2 to 3 years with my birth mom, and she was violated, her choice of having me.
And I do believe if you were sit and listen to, and when somebody leaves home like that or tries to take their own life, especially at a young age, ask why.
For the first time in their lives, have talked about what's happened to them, talked about some of the darkest and deepest memories that they've suppressed themselves for decades.
Get the fuck out!
Me ma always told me keep the tools out of the crib. Wise words she well spoken, tough love. I don't think she don't know how we live, we don't owe shit. It's like I can see the changes in the flow of the roads, and every single one of them neglected blokes. There's another king and there's another king outside of his zone, trying to hide or on his toes, dodging knives or dodging loans. He's running from probably some shit that he hasn't done. Same blocks last year, man, he had his fun. He knows if he's on this next train solo, he's fucked like the captain. From the ground to the acting, he pissed it and planned it. Snapping, he got a new passion for tracksuits. You see it maintains all the racks in. Till you get finito and do the whole fell off thing, man. We're used to this happening. We're used to the who was that captions. No phones when the duty's old fashioned. From the batch tag on that JCB to the green tint on this PVC, it was me that done it with no ramping. Man, shit happened, plans overlapped, I had to handle it. 7 a.m. Astros just to handle it. Love getting lost out and locked up all over the shop with the disposition souls. Some got taken by hollow ones. Ambition stole by the cunts that followed us. Someone tell me how the state took my brother out of his cot and they all remained anonymous. Cause we come from this kip where we all got a cap on us. We come from this kip where handouts didn't handle us. See the ballers, real ones and tucks, cue the same line, we got a hefty screw up. 6-2-1, the road not taken, got us acting up. Blue brother, ever seen a knife 40 and thought that I wasn't on the cover? 11 social workers nearly killed my mother. Paid on the COVID to play with their nose. I'm fussed for the bowlings cause where'd the funds go for the nurses? This place a real kip, a major kip, and me vision's only getting tighter. Set up the bakery quick, we made the toast like there's no lighter. Me and made a plan to print, take off and go viral, not parked off, how that shit clicked. Working for free smokes, free work, dickhead man, it's literally in the name. You're not trapping for your man, mate, that sentence is mad, I hear it and I hear it overplayed. Making new plans for new orders every day. I was grafting for grafting in many ways. I got my shoulders and money and I made a lane. Had to switch and shoot off in the other way. Me ma swear I was bringing in the bravest face. We all honest when no one watches. They said don't do it, still did it. That's what they all hate. We're getting something.
You're very welcome back. Now, joining me in studio is the lovely Rose Osborne. Thank you for joining me. One of the things, Rose, we've been trying to do with the Stay With Me art show is to honour the children who died in the mother and baby homes. And you've been a huge supporter of the survivors in the homes. But what we wanted to try and explain to people is that the loss of a child is the loss of a child, no matter when it happened. Some of the arguments about the mother and baby homes from certain sectors would be, forget about it, sure, that was years ago. You know, you have to move on with your life. But when you lose a child, you just never get over it. It does not end the suffering. And of course, you would know that when you lost your son, Glenn, during the coronavirus lockdown. Tell us what Glenn was like.
His son was a real light, Alison. A real light. He'd get up in the morning and he'd say, Princess, I'm up. And he'd make me sandwiches and me breakfast. And it was a joy to come down and do it for him. He got a bit of work and he was the happiest he could be. He'd get up and he'd get out on his push bike singing, "See you later, princess." I never thought I'd bury my son, to be honest about it, Alison, you know. And I feel so sorry for the mothers that have lost children, because no one will ever understand their pain, what we go through. Like, my Glenn, like, I always often said to my Glenn, you know, "Jesus, Glenn, you'll mind me, you know, when I get old." And he'd say, "No, man, put you in the home." But I knew he never would. We were like friends more so than mother and son. We were best friends. He told me everything and I told him everything. He'd no secrets. We met a girl, Lauren, and his first words he said to me, "Mum, I'm going to marry you." He said, and they decided to have a baby, and thank God they did, because I have a bit of him now. Such a little joy, Zion his name is.
Glenn was your only child.
He was my only child, yeah, because I couldn't have another one. It was life and death with me in Glenn, so it meant that if I was to go again, I wouldn't. I was grateful for what I got. What God gave me, He gave me one, a blessing. And I've realised now, you know what, He was obviously too good for this world, because they only take the good. A little angel now He is. My pain, my heart is just broken, like, yeah. I get great solace now when he's with his dad, Michael, you know. He loved his dad. I only buried his father a couple of years before Glenn. And Michael loved him so much. He was his Glenn, his boy. But
You've certainly kept his memory alive in these few short months that he's passed.
he
Because
will never, ever be forgotten about. He was just so good at us, and he'd help anybody.
Yeah.
He was never in trouble with the police, never brought trouble to me home. Never.
And I think that was very clear in the aftermath of his passing, because of the outpouring of grief, not just across social media, but it just was all over the media itself in general. And everybody had spoke about what a lovely person he was, and he's only 20 years old.
Yeah, you say, "Man, I'm working all my life. I'm working since I'm 14, Alison. I had to retire. I worked for Peter McVerry. I gave my life to Peter McVerry. Them lads, I could not ever go back. Like, I could never beat myself. I died when Glenn died. I'm not going to lie. I'll never, ever be the same Rose again. I have little Zion and I have a little dog that Glenn got me, and they keep me going.
Yeah.
That's what my son, only a mother would know what it's like to lose a child, and the pain and the hurt. I've lost my father, I've lost my brothers. I was hurt, but to lose my real life, that's all I can. He lit up the room when he'd come into the house. Up the stairs by us, and his friends be going over. And I always had a fear something that's happened to him, Alison. Every time I do, I'd be like a flower pot in the window. It's like a mother's, you kind of know. Until he'd come back, I'd be hit to sleep. I don't know, Alison, like, I can't understand why somebody can just kill another person and just kind of get on with their life. It's like the mothers in the homes, them priests get on with their lives, the nuns get on with their lives. I'll say it now, I'll say it to your face, they were the devil's disciples. And I tell you that now. They abused me as a child in school. You know, I could tell you the story, Alison, but it's not going to make me feel any better, you know.
And these women, as you said, they have never seen anyone brought to justice for having their babies taken. You yourself, and we obviously can't name the person who took Glenn's life because he's underage. However, you did get justice. He did get convicted of murder, and he did get a sentence. But how does that make you feel?
It doesn't make me feel any different, to be honest about it. I think if you take life, you should do life. I couldn't care less. It's not going to bring back my Glenn back to me. You know, it's like the ladies had their babies were taken. Nothing, no money. Dirt's the root of evil. They try to buy it off with that dirty bleeding money. Excuse me for cursing.
And there was a state apology for these women, and you got an apology in court, but it doesn't mean anything really to you. You said to me before.
Yeah, I was abused. I didn't get an apology off nobody. Because I wasn't in the homes.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it any right.
And that's a very good point, because they were abusing people in the community as well.
And then you live with the shame of it, you know, you feel it's you. And you blame yourself.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Yeah.
We are the victims.
Absolutely.
And the police that did abuse me, I said it. You know, he will meet his maker. They all will. I can put my head on the pillow at night, Alison. My conscience is clear. I never done no wrong on no one in my life. Neither did my boy. I reared him the best I could in a concrete jungle that we live in down there. And to think he was killed where he was reared, killing me, Alison, killing me.
Yeah.
But I know my Glenn wouldn't want me to be upset. I try not to be upset, but as the ladies will tell you, you're going to have your good days, and you'll have more good than you will bad, or you'll have more bad than you will good, Alison, by the way. Yeah, them ladies, I'll speak on behalf of myself being a mother, we will never be the same again, Alison. No money, no nothing could ever give us back what was taken from us. My son and their children.
And I think that's what we've always tried to link, the past deaths to recent deaths, and we're very grateful for you, Rose, to come in and share such a painful story. But our message is very clear, that the loss of a child is the loss of a child, no matter when it was. And your recent grief will stay with you forever.
Oh yeah, I know that. I wish God take me. I asked for him to take me. He won't. So obviously I'm here to do some kind of good for somebody. I've done good all in your life, Alison.
Yeah.
I never done no wrong to no one.
No.
And this is how I get repaid. And my son being killed to me. I'm just so sad I am. I remember Glenn's father, Michael, saying to me, yeah, I was nursing him, took him home to die. They wanted to put him in a home in Mayo, and I told them no. And I brought him home, and I remember crying, and he said to me one day, he said, Rose, stop crying, you're making me sad. And I knew what he meant. I don't know, because I'm so sad.
And I suppose in less than a year since Glenn died, Lauren's baby was born after Glenn died.
And we planned it.
Yeah.
I had to go out and give them a little bit of privacy, you know, so they could conceive little Zion. And that makes me smile. Because I didn't have to hear anything. And, that was his dream, was that he with Lauren have his little family.
And she's doing great with the trauma. She carried a baby through all of that grief and kept her little baby very safe.
She protected him, she did. And fair play, but she did it, you know.
What's it like when you see him, though?
He makes me so happy, Alison. It's like looking at Glenn all over again. Yeah. He's just an image of Glenn and a smiler. And my Glenn, all he did was smile. Yeah. Whether he was in bad form or not, he'd smile. He'd light up the room with a smile.
He sounds like you, I think.
Yeah, well, I used to. I can't do it now. Just so sad, Alison.
Yeah. It was a very traumatic year. Shock. I mean, the death of a child is horrendous, but a sudden death as well. Yeah. Like, his life was just lost so quickly.
Well, Alison, thank God I have a tree outside my door. Because it stops me looking for him. I used to go looking for him. And by chance, my nephews took a lighter in it the day of Glenn's funeral. And it was a family force lighter from Amsterdam. And Glenn always wanted to go to Amsterdam. And I said to him, we go, I said, for your 21st. And then when the corona came in, I said, well, we go down to your family in Mayo. She said, I'd like you to see your Auntie Marie. I said, she's very good to me. Always was. That's one of Michael's sisters. Always very good to me and Glenn. And never let us down, Alison. Always sent up the few Bob and Lady. A lady. That's all I can say about Marie Devaney. A lady. And when Michael died, his family came up and they were nice, you know, lovely family. But Marie is me special. She's my favourite. And I don't even know.
Yeah.
It's such a sad thing to say you don't know. You know, yeah. You see, Glenn's father never brought him down, which was wrong. And so I was walking, so I couldn't get the time even, but there's an open invitation down there for us, but not now, but please God, I'll take little Zion down to sit, show him where his father, his grandfather, was from, and his family down there.
Yeah.
Because Zion has nobody. Like, Lauren's an only child, and Glenn was an only child. My Zion has no one. Like, my family will step in there and be his aunt and uncle. But he's literally nobody, and that frightens me.
He has you, Rose.
Yeah, but I won't always be around forever, Alison.
Well, it's very important to have that relationship now, though, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So fabulous, that baby. He's gorgeous. And he is the image of Glenn. And I mean, the tree outside your home, it was kind of started with that one.
It started with the lighter, and then it's just escalated. Me niece Leah couldn't thank her enough. She's like the daughter I never had. She's always there for me. Always was. And she goes out and gets chimes for it. And so many people in the area just get solace from being there.
Yeah.
And so the little kids put flowers and everybody kind of, if they want to put something, they do. I wouldn't say anything to them. And it's like Glenn's spirit is at the tree. Now, photographs, my friend took, and Tricia took one of the tree, but Glenn was only just gone. And they went to see Big Arbor, you know. And I do get great. I bring little Zion out every morning when I have him.
Yeah.
We go out until the morning to and I wipe his face.
Yeah.
I wipe his face. But
It's a beautiful tree, and we have images of it in the show.
my
tonight
little
as
neighbour
well.
upstairs, Ellie, she wasn't well, and she said, Rose, the tree got through. Thanks, Rose. She said, Glenn's tree, she used to look out. And it's lovely in the evening time, it's all lit up. It stopped me from going out looking for him.
Yeah.
I could only walk out and look up at Ian's friends to see if he was up there, or you know. But now, with the tree, I don't.
Yeah.
And I love listening to the chimes when I'm in bed. I don't sleep now.
Very comforting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody on the road is saying it's lovely.
It is beautiful.
So everybody's kind of getting a little bit of solace out of it,
Yeah. Cause
And
it's
that's what
just
my grandmother liked, Alison.
Yeah.
He's always saying, Ma, I'll be famous. I'll make the papers and I'll be famous, Ma. Make the papers for the wrong reason, Alison.
It's a very sad story.
Yeah.
It's very sad but you know, you do him so much justice as his mother, because you keep him alive. I've never known Glenn, but I know of him now because of the way you describe him. And you do really make that effort to keep him alive and tell everybody about
I
him.
always will, Alison. I always will. That child gave me 20 years of happiness. Pure happiness.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for the 20 years with the ladies.
Yeah.
None of them got anything.
Yeah.
You know, so I am grateful for that, Alison.
Yeah.
Them ladies got nothing.
Didn't have their babies at all.
No.
And I know, I can tell you, you know, from speaking to a lot of survivors and families of the children who died in these homes, that they're very grateful that while in your own depths of despair, you are speaking out for them across social media all the time. It doesn't go unnoticed, and they're very grateful to you, Rose, because you are suffering yourself.
And if you want to know about the hearts, the red is for me, sending love, and the white is for the little angels, and the blue is for Glenn.
Yeah.
So if you're seeing the red, white, blue, that's what they mean.
Yeah.
You know, it's just something stupid I've done since he died.
It's not stupid, it's lovely. It's lovely.
Yeah, I get peace out of it, yeah. White, pure for an angel.
You have to do what you do, Rose, because you are going through the depths of despair. And we're very grateful for you to come in here and tell us this story tonight, because we want to know about Glenn, and we want to thank you as well for supporting the show and for all of the families and the survivors, that you're constantly speaking up for them, even when you are going through such terrible loss yourself, Rose. So
Thank God they have you, Alison, because you are the advice. And my Glenn brought you to me, you and Karen. And I will never forget that. You were sent to me, and I'll always keep that in my heart. So she sent to me. And this was hard for me to do, I'm going to be honest with you.
Of course.
It was just the fact of getting out,
Yeah.
coming out my door.
Yeah.
Just the way the grief's got me, I don't. And I just kept saying, I'm going to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this.
I know it's not
And
easy, yeah.
I was trying to palm it out and say I can't do it, Alison, and I couldn't. And I said, no, I will do it.
No, and I really
And once I
appreciate
got out, you know.
Yeah.
It's just the way the grief has got me. I'm hoping, please God, in time that this passes me, you know.
Yeah. We all deal with grief in our own way, Rose, and you go through it in your own way. You're entitled to feel whatever way you feel, but we're very grateful. And as I said, we were actually, myself and Karen were filming the last Stay With Me virtual show when we passed the beautiful tree and got out as nosy journalists to have a look. And then I was like, I think that's the mother. And we kind of ran. And then we said we better come back. And that's when we got talking. And I'm really glad that we did go
So
back.
am I. So am I. And I couldn't thank you and Karen, you know, just for you to be there to listen to me, Alison.
Oh, no,
It's
very
lovely, you
important.
know, because they can tell you anything. And you don't judge anybody, you know.
No.
And that's what I love about you. And you're so straight. And a spade is a spade with you. And you can't fault anyone for speaking the truth.
Absolutely.
I
yeah.
always spoke truth.
Yes, you
Wasn't right for
do.
a book.
No,
I
no.
spoke it.
True to yourself.
You know, I'm very sad at Rosie. And I did.
Yeah. Do it your way. Well, thank you very much for coming in to talk to us,
Thank you
Rose.
very much,
We really
Alison.
appreciate it. And we're going to take a look now at Terry Harrison's video. Terry Harrison is a mother who gave birth in St. Patrick's Mother and Baby Home, and her baby was taken and adopted by the nuns. Thanks again, Rose. I'll leave you with Terry.
You can't pick smash pieces and make them join together, and that's my heart. My name is Terry, and I'm one of the thousands of women who, in 1973, at the age of 18, I found myself locked away in an institution called Besborough. There was a lot of abuse, a tremendous amount of neglect. And between both institutions, yeah, I was afraid, I was scared, terrified.
For 47 years, Terry Harrison has been grieving for her little boy who was taken from her by the nuns while she was an unmarried mother in an institution. She was just 18 years old and she never saw him again.
I had nothing left of my Niall except the clothes she left at the end of his cot. It's undescribable. You think, you know, after 47 years, it fades away, it gets worse. You know why? He doesn't know the truth, and I don't know what was told to him. That's the first thing. The second thing is, the exit light used to be really bright. It's fading like hell now for me. And I'm never going to get the opportunity to tell this wonderful man his beginnings. But the mistake they made was they stole his identity, they robbed him of his family of origin, of his history, of everything that he should have. And every single person on this planet has the right to know their beginnings.
Terry was sent to St. Patrick's and Besborough institutions when her aunt found out she was pregnant and told her family. Thousands of women have walked in Terry's shoes.
Why didn't they question thousands of babies from thousands of girls like me? What's the chances that thousands would say, no, I'm signing this? You know, that's not real either. They told lie after lie after lie. My son, I want him to know the truth. And I'll be gone by the time he ever finds it. I'll never get to give him that last hug.
When Terry realised her son had been taken for adoption, she went into complete shock, describing the pain as unbearable.
I went into a bubble. I have no memory of anything real in my life, including going back to college, going back to school, getting married. And unfortunately, my motherhood was destroyed beyond recognition. When my beautiful little girl was born, she was beautiful. And it was almost like she belonged to somebody else.
Remember me on nights when all the stars have disappeared.
Terry turns to art, music and theatre to deal with her pain. But for the thousands of survivors like her, she wants the government to deal with the past.
Just acknowledge it and let's heal. Let us all heal. You know, I don't know why they're afraid, but they are. They're terrified of the truth coming out. They've deferred the Commission's report time and time again. Why?
Terry describes the day Niall was taken.
And I was in the kitchen duty, and it was coming up to feeding time. And I went up, like everybody else did, but his cot was empty.
Terry played no role in her son's adoption.
I never signed the papers. It turns out the solicitor that helped me get some of my files back, we discovered that the only reason I can link this Niall to the person I believe he is down the very corner. There's a little box where it says mother's name, and whoever signed it didn't spell my name right, because my mother registered me as Teresa. There's two ways to spell Teresa. There's TH or there's TE. And whoever forged my signature didn't go to the trouble of finding out.
Despite her campaign, she says her suffering will never end.
You can't pick smash pieces and make them join together, and that's my heart. And I went on to have Elaine, Laura and Patrick, and I loved them so much, but I was not there.
In what may be Terry's last attempt at connecting with her son, she gave us this heartbreaking appeal.
I've thought of doing you a video, Niall, in case I'm not around. But maybe this might be the one that you'll see. Niall, from the minute I felt the life of you inside of me, I've never, ever gotten over you and our loss and the lifetime we should have had. And I once said I'd give anything to have a good row with you, even. A good argument with you, because that's normal. That's real. What happened to us was not real. And I don't think it helped you in any way, because you must know, Niall. You must have cried all the way down to Cork that day in the car. You must have cried when she put you in that cold nursery in Besburn, alone, without me. And you must have known the way I sang and hummed to you. You must have some sense of smell of me or something. But I'm hoping if you ever listen to Remember Me, that even the music of that or the sound of that will trigger a sense, all the senses that you might have had to bury in order to be somebody else's son. But it's not you, Niall. It never was. If you'd only meet me even once, if you'd only let me hug you just once, I think if we actually touched each other, I think Niall would wake up and be free. I think you could heal yourself too. I wish you every happiness in the world, but know one thing. I adored you. And your brothers and sisters that came along after you, they too would love to meet you. They too know the pain. They'd no right whatsoever to take you out of your cot, to take you away from your mammy. They don't call me your mammy. They never say to you, you know, I was an expectant mum. They don't use words like that. They use things like birth mother. What's that, Niall? What's a birth mother? I'm your mother now. And I'll be your mother till the last breath leaves my body. And I will never let anybody ever call me anything else. Because there wouldn't be no Niall if there was no me. No, Niall. Please, I'm begging you. Give me one moment with you. Just to say goodbye. That's it. I promise you. I won't intrude on any of your life. Just one hug. Because I'm convinced that's what you need as much as me. I'm convinced of it.
Now, the Stay With Me art show is a response to all of the children who died during the mother and baby home era. And we're very grateful to all of the artists who have contributed to this show, because without them, we wouldn't have the Stay With Me art show. But we have a lot of new art, don't we, Rachel? And you're going to tell us about it?
We do indeed, Alison. Yeah. I mean, obviously we had over 30 artists beforehand who would be very much at the core of the whole Stay With Me show, you know, who have been in their own kind of personal way really touched by the story of the mother and baby homes.
Yeah.
And I think, like Alison, you know, when we done the last Stay With Me show, I think for me personally, I was just really struck by the deafening silence, after the show. I personally couldn't wrap my head around it, and after a while I was kind of, just really sunk home the enormity of this story, do you know, and how painful it is, like, for people to actually take in and to process it, you know. So I think for us, like, it was important to kind of create that space and a platform, like, for people to be able to express themselves, you know, in a way that you know, goes beyond any kind of language, you know, and I think that's why this has been so important.
I know certainly after the last show you were quite upset over the lack of response to it, but as I said, the enormity of it, it's so huge sometimes it's very hard to comprehend. And I suppose for these individual artists, they've responded to this scandal through various forms of art, but the survivors and families themselves find it absolutely beautiful, and they find it very healing, don't they?
They do, but the thing about it is, with the art, you know, you have to be very, very careful. It's a really fine line. And it's something that I suppose I've been conscious of throughout the whole thing, you know, and getting to know the survivors. And also have been, you know, very, very privileged to get to know the artists as well, and to understand their inspiration for creating the pieces that they done. And I think, you know, with art sometimes it's kind of connotations of airy fairiness, or trying to fluff over things, or trying to make it, you know, seem nicer than what it actually is. And that's the thing that we have to always be very mindful of, is that the level of trauma with this story, do you know, and I think it's important to say that, like, to survivors as well, that's, you know, just because, you know, we're talking about art as a way of healing through grief or loss, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean that the survivors are in that place.
Absolutely.
Do you know?
Absolutely.
Because they have to actually, you know, get the acknowledgement first that they need, and the action needs to be taken now, you know, for them to be able to heal. But I suppose the thing is, like, is that this is intergenerational, obviously, you know, it's going on decades.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's been people, we're like, you know, we're bowing our heads in shame as a nation, and people all over the world, you know, are just absolutely wobbled. I think especially, you know, since the sealing of the archives, people have literally come out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
People are so affected by it, you know. And the thing about art is that, you know, it helps people to be able to make sense of something, do you know? And you can take something that's so deep and actually, you know, create it into something, whether it's ceramics or textiles or glass. And for the artists, like, it, you know, it's been a journey for them as well, you know. I mean, even Veronica Buchanan, you know, she spoke about doing the vigil at Tuam, and listening to Anne O'Gorman talking about, you know, being sedated and waking up and being told that her baby was with the angels. So for the artists, it has been a journey for them as well. It's been very collaborative with us all. But we have, since the sealing of the archives, and particularly the apology, we've had loads more artists come forward wanting to express their own individual response to this, and that is the beauty of this. And I suppose, you know, we've some amazing artists. We've Kaylee Ryle, we have Rochelle O'Regan, we have Julia Inglis, who sent work over from Australia. And really, really powerful. But I suppose it's just to kind of let the survivors know that they are seen, they are heard, they are supported, that we're with them in this journey, you know, and we're here to stay with them, you know.
Well, let's take a look at the art, shall we? It's absolutely beautiful. This is the new Stay With Me virtual art show, and I want to thank all of the artists who've loaned us their work to be part of this show. Here it is.
Ooh. Go Malta Breda on Vanille Heron on Van Legachtiri Molamish Galeri Lochran gal na lainoch a sail she fall na tira Ciawn rog veran Ciawn man mina Dig an year a diandov a yaralen a yera ach lo lebrida Garduin aracheren Go Malta Breda on Vanille Heron on Van Legachtiri Molamish Galeri
Welcome back. I'm joined in studio now by Donal O'Keefe, who did an incredible front page story in the Irish Examiner recently, giving the names of all the children who died in Bessborough. Donal, how are you?
Hi Alison.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, it's lovely to be here.
Your front page had an international response.
It did indeed. It seemed to really take off. I think it's something that really seemed to capture the imagination at a particular time.
Yeah.
It's the 816 names of the children that the nuns in Bessborough registered as having died at the home.
And you see, this is the big issue, isn't it?
Yes.
That the amount of children who are actually registered in the home itself is not equivalent to the names that they've registered in the GRO.
The Commission of Investigation into Mother and Baby Homes says that they have 924 children who died at Bessborough on the various books supplied by the order, the Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary. But only 816 of them made it as far as the General Register Office. So the state was only told about 816. So that's a deficit of 107 children. So you've been covering this an awfully long time. You know that's going to feed into terrible anxiety for the survivors of those children. Where are those extra 107? And there's, as I know from your work in Shanross, for instance, it seems to be a consistent thing that numbers don't seem to match.
Yeah, we were just saying that earlier in the show, that there's 1,090 children in the nuns registers for Shanross, but I was only able to get 1,024. And when you see those figures, you can't help but wonder, are these children just, have they been illegally registered and are they living in America under a different identity and they don't even know they've been adopted? Or is it just bad practice and bad record keeping?
I suppose there's no reason it couldn't be both. I often think of friends of mine who are convinced that their relatives are alive and living in America. And it's a very human thing to grasp at any hope. And in the absence of burial records, as in Bessborough, so if 800 children officially, 816 officially died at Bessborough, we don't have the burial records of even 100 children. So there's 700 plus. There's really more. 800, we don't know. We don't know where those children are. They could well be buried on the grounds of Bessborough, and this is something that I think is replicated in every other mother and baby home all over the country, and of course in the county homes, which didn't fall under the remit of the commission.
Yeah.
So we've got that reservoir of grief. I know that when you broke the Tuam story in 2014, as from our conversations in real life, as you said, this started with 796 babies in that forlorn pit in Tuam.
Yeah.
And here we are now, we know 9,000 children died. 9,000.
And not one of them have been found.
No. So where are they? Maybe, perhaps, who are they? That was, from myself, I was walking the grounds of Bessborough with Catherine Corliss and her husband Aidan in 2019, that Catherine said to me, it was only when people saw the names of the Tuam babies in the newspaper, and that's thanks to you, but Catherine says that it was only then that she feels something shifted in people's minds.
Yeah.
That these became real kids, these became real human beings, real citizens of Ireland who were born here and were as much a part of this country as we are. So from there, I went to the General Register Office. I recall talking to you at the time about it.
Yeah.
I went to the GRO and they could not have been more helpful. Under Regina Doherty was the Minister for Social Protection at the time, and the General Register Office falls under her remit, or the Minister's remit. They couldn't have been more helpful. I found it very touching that the man I was speaking to, when I put in my Freedom of Information request and he gave me back the names of the children, and he said to me, I hope you realise you are now the custodians of these children, of their memory. And I think what the Irish Examiner, and it's entirely thanks to Ronan Bagnall, who's the deputy news editor, Deirdre Shaughnessy, who's the news editor, and Tom Fitzpatrick, who's the editor, it's entirely thanks to the Examiner that at last, I think it's important because the Cork Examiner, as it was at the time, was the official paper of Cork. At the time when Bessborough when children were dying in their hundreds during the 1940s, when the blind eye was being turned by official Ireland, the Cork Examiner was part of that.
Yeah.
And I think it was a great rebalancing on the part of the Examiner that they chose to run that front page with the names from the General Register Office of the kids against a gorgeous photograph by Larry Cummins of if you, I know you've been to Bessborough, if anyone watching this has ever been to Bessborough, there's some lovely statues and there's always some toys there. There's a general kindness, both from the survivors and their families, and from, I think, from people in Cork as well, towards the Bessborough babies.
Yeah.
So I just think I'm very proud of the Irish Examiner for having done that.
Yes, of course. Yeah, no,
for having run that cover.
Beautiful, beautiful front page. And of course, it made it onto CNN.
It did. Sorry about that, Taoiseach.
But it was wonderful to see their names international when these were so forgotten and uncared for, unloved, discarded, to now be international news. Quite rightly so.
Yes, it did. I really shouldn't joke about such a subject, but the Taoiseach was being quizzed about his statement, his suggestion, which I think echoed the Commission report, which this notion that it was society's fault, society played a part, that the horrific line in the report that young women had, and girls of course, had failed to gain the support of their families. Yeah. That is such a horrible, horrible way. It's a twisting of reality. But the Taoiseach was being quizzed on his idea, this notion that it was all of society's fault.
Yeah.
And of course, if it's everybody's fault, it's nobody's fault.
Oh, yeah.
And the interviewer produced or slapped up on screen our front page, and I think it was quite a moment.
It was quite a moment for the children as well. It
Yes.
was absolutely incredible to see their names making international headlines. But as I said, and so they should be.
Absolutely. Well, my own mother didn't know I had anything to do with that front page, and we're a house that would take the Examiner of a morning. And I was talking to her on the phone, and she said she'd spent ages just looking at their names and matching their dates against dates in her life and dates in our lives or her children's lives. And I think that's really important, that people stop and think that this was an Irish person, this was a human being, and this person died in shocking circumstances.
And of course the causes of deaths are shocking. You would have seen all of them.
Yeah, I suppose it's important to say, in Bessborough, which is what I've been looking at, I've been following the Bessborough story in the Irish Examiner, and I've been following the story. 816 children died officially at Bessborough, 924 in total, according to the Commission of Investigation. Of that, almost 700 of them died before 1945. So something happened there in 1945, and there was a lead up to it. Anyone who's familiar with the report will know that one inspector, Alice Litster, had raised every red flag imaginable in 1941, 1943. She gave really stark analysis of what was happening in the home. If I may, I brought a note. Alice Litster said the greater number of the babies, she examined, of the 27 babies in August 1943 in the day nursery at Bessborough, aged between 3 weeks and 9 months, only of the 27, only 8 of them were breastfed and only 3 fully. Litster said the greater number were miserable scraps of humanity, wizened, some emaciated, and almost all had rash and sores all over their bodies, faces, hands, and heads. It seems that the Mother Superior in Bessborough, Mother Martina Gleeson, had absolutely no qualification in, I won't speak ill of the dead, she had no qualification in obstetrics, gynecology, in actually feeding children.
Oh, but Donald, no, you don't need experience to know that that's wrong.
Well,
like,
what
it's a
I was going to say,
reaction.
experience of being a human being.
Yeah.
She had, it seems, a horror of breastfeeding. And it was
The
said,
most natural thing in the world.
literally, it was said that she actively discouraged mothers. But when challenged on that by Alice Litster, she retorted, and it's quite a chilling comment as well. She said, absolutely not. And any mother who doesn't want to breastfeed is forced to. So it was just a completely unnatural approach to, I don't understand it. We talk now about othering. There must have been this idea that these are in some way less than human because they're illegitimate.
Yeah, yeah.
That a concept we only outlawed in law 1988-ish.
I mean, the idea that, you know, getting pregnant outside wedlock was a sin, but then to take it out on the child.
Yes. To go back to Alice Litster for a second, the red flags were raised, the alarm bells were ringing, and in 1945 I became fascinated in the memoir of Dr. James Deany, who was, if you like, the Tony Holohan of the day. He was the chief state medical advisor. We have a medical officer now. He was fulfilling essentially that role. He was the key advisor to Con Ward, who was effectively the Minister for Health at the time. He travelled to Bessborough, and he relates this in his memoir, and he says he blew in there and he walked the ward, and it was spotlessly clean. Of course it was, because the nuns were...
They were given a warning.
Well...
That he's coming.
Yes, but he said he couldn't figure out why are so many children dying. He just couldn't figure this out. So he says in his memoir that unusually for a medical advisor, he stripped the children. He said, and under the clean clothes, under the immaculately clean bedclothes, the children were all covered in sores. They were... And he said all had green diarrhea, which is a clear indication of malnutrition. Yeah. So he closed the home in 45. There was a massive power struggle kicked off then. The Bishop of Cork, Daniel Cohalan, had complained bitterly already at what he saw as government interference. Mm-hmm. He had said canon law supersedes the law of the land. You know, tell them nothing, tell them where to go. You're a nun, you outrank these people. Mm. When Deany closed the home, the papal nuncio got involved. He was an American man, a retired industrialist, a millionaire, and he showed up at the Taoiseach's office, and Eamon de Valera heard his thundering complaints, and de Valera just gave him the report, Deany's report on Bessborough. Mm-hmm. So the nuncio read the report and immediately said, oh, okay, right. As you were, Dr. Deany is entirely correct in what he is doing. Yeah. So the church backed down. Bessborough then appointed Mother Rosamond McCarthy, and she came, I believe, from Shanross, and she actually had a qualification. She knew what she was doing. She wasn't actively hateful towards the children. Mm. Now, she got the figures, the death rate down from, it was 100. It reached 82% for one 12-month period in between 42 and 43. The death rate in Bessborough reached 82%. At a time when the national, so if anybody says, oh, well, it was during World War II after all, at that time the national infant mortality rate in Ireland was 6.6%. Mm. So there or thereabouts on 7%. 82% of children born or admitted to Bessborough after after birth, died in Bessborough. So that was what Mother Rosamond inherited in 1945. She cleaned the place out completely. Deany, in his memoir, Deany is very much the hero of his memoir. He's very proud that after he cleaned the place out, after he put his foot down, the death rate in Bessborough never got into double figures again. So that's his experience. It should be noted that June Goulding, who was a midwife in Bessborough, she wrote a great book called The Light in the Window. Mm-hmm. And she says that mothers were routinely denied anaesthetics. Post Deany's cleanup, routinely denied stitches. And I know, because I spoke with a wonderful woman called Cindy whose baby was the last baby to die in Bessborough.
Yeah.
That's little Zoe died in 1994. Cindy was denied pain medication in St. Finbarr's Hospital. Now, Cindy's a very, very young woman. And to think that half a century after the big clean-up, women were still being punished for the sin of being pregnant outside of wedlock. Women were still being treated like criminals. To say, though, that I did come across one thing that quite shocked me. I was fascinated with the figure of Deany and with his coming in, sort of like Jesus into the temple and closing Bessborough down and firing. He says he fired the chief medical officer of Bessborough, Dr. J.T. O'Connor, O'Connor's excuse for why so many children were dying was that, this is a medical doctor saying this, that illegitimate, and I can't use enough air quotes on that, that illegitimate children had a different gestation period to children born in wedlock because their mothers were stressed. He was a very humane man, obviously. It's just cuckoo. His idea was, well, they're all dying because they're put together wrong, because their mothers sinned. So Deany fired him and fired the nun and everything. So I just became fascinated by this, and I wanted to see if there was any more I could read about it. And I went to the Royal College of Surgeons, their archive section. They have some of Deany's private papers, and I discovered in there a letter in 1947 from Deany to Mother Rosamond, the new head of Bessborough. She'd been 2 years in situ now, and she had brought the death rate down to single figures from, a peak of 100, I think 102 in 1942, thereabouts. So he and Mother Rosamond had quite a business-like relationship in the correspondence. But he says to her, I'm sorry for the delay in replying to you, Mother Rosamond. I've been speaking with the Cork County medical officer, Dr. Condy, and we've agreed that we will now call off. I can give you the exact quote, because I found it quite startling. Excuse me. I have just been on the phone to Dr. Condy and arranged with him that the special investigation into the death of each child may be dropped for the present. In the event of any undue rise in the death rate, those investigations would have to be resumed. So I read this letter. It's just sitting there in the file. It's on its own. There's no reply to it. And I just realised he's just admitting that the state had been threatening the nuns at Bessborough. If you don't clean up your act now, we will have a public special investigation into what was at the time 700 deaths. 700 kids had died. And the state was threatening the nuns, blackmailing them effectively. I think that's sensational in itself. But then when the death rate dropped, the state went, that's grand, so look, go on about your business. Business not quite as usual, but let's go. So I think that's quite shocking.
Desperate, yeah.
And I think that's the rejoinder. And I've spoken with the Taoiseach and I've seen how I know he's a decent man. I know he's a very compassionate man, Micheál Martin. But it's a rejoinder to his claim that it was society was in some way responsible.
Yeah.
Because it ignores how intertwined church and state were. And it also forgets how society was completely shaped by church and state.
Of course, yeah. Hand in hand, yeah. Well, thank you very much for coming in to talk to us, and thank you for keeping the memory of the Bessborough babies alive and your beautiful front page. I just want to say thank you to everybody who watched the show tonight and for everyone who took part in the show as well. You can see our Stay With Me art up on the Remembering Tuam Babies Facebook page, as well as the Stay With Me Art Show YouTube channel and Instagram Stay With Me Art. We're going to leave you now with Song for Fallen Mothers by Miles Gaffney.
The moment they slammed the door upon my admission, my dignity, identity, they stole my only possessions. In their eyes burned Satan's shame, you've yourself to blame, and mother's superior deemed for frame, as they christen me my fictitious name. Welcome to your hell on earth, for the fallen orders of the church, for you're nothing, you're only dirt, and we'll sell your baby when you give birth. So I beg Jesus and Mary, would you let me keep my baby? Can I have him back if I keep going to mass? Isn't this what you told me as I scrub down on my hands and knees, and you strip my flesh with your rosary beads to the blind eye of the powers to be? What a price to pay for a pregnancy. Infants screaming in distress, snatched straight from their mother's breast, the masquerading brides of Christ, on their newborn wrists they slap the price. Some little angels weren't safe, their mothers kept as slaves, and nobody knows their names. They're buried in shallow graves, suffering silence, not even a whisper. Never forget your demonic sisters. Always remember you're the sinner, as you cut the grass with your paper scissors. So I beg Jesus and Mary, would you let me keep my baby? Can I have him back if I keep going to mass? Isn't this what you told me as I scrub down on my hands and knees, and you strip my flesh with your rosary beads in the blind eye of the powers to be? What a price to pay for a pregnancy. Still the stench of evil seeps through the walls. Babies' cries, they haunt